So most of the trash in the U.S. is buried in sanitary landfills. So we'll continue on with other hazardous waste. So what kind of other hazardous waste can either leach out from landfills, so leak into our groundwater or surface water, or come out as other industrial waste, maybe directly from the water lines in a factory. So some of the most hazardous waste include things like heavy metals. So things like mercury can come from old medical equipment. You can get zinc from electronics, lead from industrial waste, and ammunition, and cadmium from electronics. We can also get things like PCBs, which are endocrine disruptors, so they disrupt the hormones in your system. Different oils, different acids, and different caustic materials can all come from landfills and other industrial waste. So let's talk about water pollution. Water pollution can be divided into two primary categories. Point source pollution. Point source pollution enters a body of water at a specific location. So, for example, if you were a factory that was making pesticides and you had a leak or you were dumping waste into a river, that would be point source pollution because we could point to exactly where the waste came from. If you had an oil spill, whether it was a pipeline leaking into an aquifer over the ground or an oil tanker, we'd be able to tell exactly where the water pollution began. Or things like municipal sewage. If a sewer line breaks or overflows, we know exactly where that happens. Non-point source pollution comes from a large diffuse area. So, for example, agricultural runoff, things like pesticides, fertilizers, and animal waste running off farms. While you might know the general area, most agricultural areas are large, and so it's really hard to pinpoint exactly where these fertilizers came from. Or if you were looking at urban runoff, which yard did the dog poop come from? Which yard did the oil come from? So any large area where you can't tell exactly where the pollution started from, that would be called non-point source pollution. So here is point source pollution. Right here is a factory discharging waste directly. This is the Cahoga River in Ohio. This river is on fire. This river caught fire 13 times before the late 1950s, early 1960s, at which point it was instrumental in establishing the Clean Water Act and the beginnings of the EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency. So much oil and mostly oil, grease from different, like the machinery within the factories, some caustic acids, leaking like petroleum from the trucks and the cars that were, or the trucks that were picking up materials. All these things were just discharged directly into the river because that's what it was there for, right? Just dump your waste in. It was so bad that people wouldn't swim in it, fish couldn't live in it, and again, it literally caught fire 13 times. And so that's it for pollution.